Uh, Madeline, thank you so much for. If you're ready, we can just jump right into this podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming to the podcast. And it would not be a podcast because we are slobberingly grateful for every guest we give. So much so, we start off every podcast with the over the top introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from the Finger Lakes to Nashville to she has one of the fastest rising country music artists coming out of Nashville, has the hit single soon to be released in a matter of hours, Heart Space. Ladies and gentlemen, a rose by any other name would not sound as good. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Madelyn Rose. Welcome to the podcast.
Wow, thank you.
We mean this. We're happy to have you. I'm glad you're here. The over the top introduction is so worth it because in a very short time, you have been crushing it, young lady.
Thank you so much. Wow.
Now, I gotta say, I was doing some homework, I was reading. It seemed like you started music at the age of 4, you're self-taught guitar, and you're a classically trained pianist.
Yes. Yes, all that's correct.
What propelled you to go this far? What was the motivation to just, hey, I love music and this is gonna be in my life. See you guys later.
Yeah, I would say for me it slowly transitioned from a hobby to something that was taking over my whole life in a good way. And when you're young, you either play a sport or you do something musical or any of that kind of stuff. And so I just started piano. I had a really cheap little keyboard, not any of those.
Okay, okay.
And
Shout out to Casio.
yes.
Oh shit. Oh, it
And
was the Casio. I was just joking.
yeah,
Go
that
on. I want
and
to
it's
interrupt.
funny because that's in a lot of my articles that it's a Casio, but um yeah. So I started taking piano lessons when I was 4, and I guess you could say it was classically trained. I mean, I did all that kind of music. I didn't really get into country until I was like 14. But pretty much, I went through two piano teachers, switched to one when I was like 12 or 13, and then COVID hit. And it was a blessing in disguise for me because I kind of just took this whole hobby to a new level. My teacher went on maternity leave, and so that kind of left me to be on my own. And the way that I work, when I'm kind of left to be independent, I'm an only child, that's kind of how I thrive. And so when she kind of just let me have everything, I wasn't forced to practice. There wasn't any songs that, okay, learn this when I have be back kind of thing. Um, I started learning chords. And instead of like looking at sheet music, playing that, taking honestly 3 weeks, 3 weeks to learn one song, and that's really hard. You can forget it easily. It's not an easy thing. Um, so I transitioned from doing sheet music to chords. And that was really the big game changer because then I could start singing songs that I did on the radio. Um, and of course, that's a lot more fun than Mozart or any of that kind of
That's
stuff
true.
for a 13-year-old girl. And so I started doing that. And then that also led me to be able to write songs with chords. So the chord idea was also self-taught. Um, I would Google, what makes up an A chord, what makes up a B minor. I learned all that stuff when I was 4, but I was 4, so
Yeah.
um, but that also helped me a lot with guitar. Being self-taught is like, yes, I know the chord, I would Google it, but I know the music theory of, maybe this chord doesn't go with this chord or vice versa. And, different keys and transposing and capos and all that kind of stuff. So I did take a lot of time to learn piano, but it honestly helped me a lot with guitar.
During our over the top introduction, I made sure to point out that you were labeled one of the fastest rising country music artists, and that is a very big honor and a very small class. So I'm curious, how does that make you feel? Is that a pressure thing, or is it just kind of like, hey, I'm just here, wait for the ride, or do you feel it? How does it make you feel?
I'm so excited. Like, I tell this story all the time, and I look at my life. I measure my life in summers. I'm a big lake girl, as I'm sure a lot of people are, and I would always compare myself to last summer. Okay, last summer I was just signing a deal with Veer. Okay, last summer I was releasing my first album. Past summer before that was COVID, and I was just starting to write songs. And I look at people like Megan Maroney, just absolutely blew it out of the park. I think she's one of the fastest growing, in my opinion, with Tennessee Orange. And I love her music so much. I appreciate her stories. But I look at me and I'm like, it is happening pretty fast. It's pretty much I would say from my parents, my manager, and my label. Um, my parents actually believed in me and got me the keyboards and the guitars to learn, and when I wasn't even professional yet. And then my manager kind of took a chance on someone who had 5 subscribers on YouTube. And I wasn't a good writer, I wasn't a good singer. And who says that I am now? No, I'm just kidding.
Wow, I was like, wow, you
But
know what?
he took a chance on me, and then my label also did too. I mean, it was only three, 3 or 4 months after I signed with my manager that we signed with my label. And we were looking for music video directors for my first video, and he kind of went to Veer and just like, I've got this girl kind of thing. I wasn't really involved in the process much, so I don't know what the communication was like, but
Mhm.
um, I would say each person I meet is like, we're really doing this, like, wow, we're here.
Okay. I'm curious. Like you kind of mentioned a little bit that in a weird, the best way I could put it, that you have your report card system, if you will, every summer. Where was I compared to last year, and where am I going to be next summer?
Mhm,
Um, I'm curious. I talked about the Finger Lakes. Those who don't know, small town in New York.
mhm.
Does that small town um influence you in your music, where it's more of a family aspect, or are you just kind of just again you're plucked from this place and brought into another place, and you're just going to just be just
Mhm. Yeah, I would say it has a lot to do with everything. I've found that in where I am writing right now, I have a tougher time writing about the things that I like to do, like music or, boating or lake stuff, any of that kind of thing. Um, but I would say, no matter where you live, small town or big city, anyone's in has a crush or a relationship. I was just talking about this in another interview where a lot of my music doesn't always have to be perceived as a relationship. It could be a friendship, or, I was I was just comparing Won't Be Me this morning to like getting fired at work or something, getting
yeah,
replaced at
business
work.
relationship. Yeah.
Um, you might not be slow dancing on the dock in the rain, but you know, it won't be you. And so yeah, I mean, going back to the question, I think definitely, there's you run into more people at town. There's certain things that you're gonna do in your small town that you wouldn't do in a city or that kind of stuff. It's very normal to listen to country around here and go fishing and hunting and all that kind of stuff. Um, there's not a lot to do besides go watch a sports game from your local high school, or go fishing or get ice cream or something. But so that's a pretty large part of my music.
Okay, and you kind of mentioned it earlier that you were discovered by longtime Hootie and the Blowfish manager, Rusty Harmon, who has known to just find talent. And then you got signed with Veer. What makes those two elements like the perfect, I guess, home for whether it be you and your music, or what makes it like they're getting the best out of me?
Being with Veer and Rusty has been a great experience for me. I never would have thought that I would be signing a record deal at 15. Um, and yet the big being with my manager and signing that deal only with a couple months in, signing that deal, um, I really appreciate him. I almost want to say taking the chance on me because I didn't know what I was doing. I was online school at home. I was pretty much like all or nothing. Like I didn't drop out of school, but I sacrificed my school life so that I could do this. And um, I didn't know completely what I was doing with producing or mixing or writing. Um, I just like to sing country. That was
Okay.
what I did. And when you go sing at your local church, you're amazing. But when you go sing in Nashville for a big shot producer, are you? No, probably not.
Yeah.
So, them taking the chance on me was one of the greatest experiences, and it's so nice. It's so sweet. Um, but they got me on a lot of good playlists and interviews. We've just came up with a great team along the way.
I'm very curious. What is collaborations looking like in the studio? Because you did mention it. You are, at the time you were 15, and they're taking a chance on you. And I'm guessing, if I'm wrong at any point, let me know. But
Mhm.
there
Yeah.
has to be a pretty strong age gap between yourself and probably some of the people you're collaborating with. So is that kind of like, hey guys, this is what lit means, and then you just kind of
Mhm.
gotta figure it out, or what does it look like?
That's a great question. I mean, I've I've released 3 singles, 3 in a couple hours.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but, those 3 singles, I've got those 3, and then I've got 2 up and coming. Um, I mean, technically 3 up and coming. I need to stop saying that it's already out.
Mhm.
But,
Okay.
so I would say for the 3 first singles, I co-wrote them with 2 other people, technically 3, but they were younger for in the business, I would say 20s and 30s,
Okay.
and so I remember having a conversation with my producer, and we were talking about he was also involved in the writing, but he was talking about something that we were thinking about putting in the song, and he was like, it would have been perfectly fine if I was 10 years older, but it was about drinking and stuff. And um
You don't.
and
I
we
see
were
what you're
like,
saying.
we a lot of people my age would put that out, but I'm a country artist, and it's a little bit different for me. And so that was one of the things where it's like, yeah, we can't really. Um but the age gap thing is funny because some of the things that I've written with these 2 up and coming singles, I wrote with an older woman and her husband for a few of them. But some of those things, it's harder to relate to and connect with.
Right.
Um, Instead of just, if I was writing with like 16-year-old Taylor Swift, it'd be, oh my gosh, great idea, that kind of thing. But I try to write so that it's pretty much relatable for all ages. All these Heart Space, Taillights Fade, and Won't Be Me. It should be relatable to any age
And it is.
if you think about it. I've been really careful of like not putting things like, oh, like cell phone in the songs, you know, instead of like radio or that kind of thing.
Right.
Um,
Now,
so
and to be quite honest, I don't know if you know this or not. I am not a teenage girl. I'm just not. I don't know if you noticed, but I totally identify with Till I Fade and Won't Be Me. And I guess I could talk about it a little bit, Heart Space.
yeah.
Again, as of this recording, in a few hours, it'll be out and the world can hear it. But I guess what I'm listening to is um things you want to talk about, but is there also a longing of things that you kind of had to give up during your transition? You kind of slightly mentioned it that yeah, you kind of had to do the online thing with school. You're missing out on some milestones. Maybe prom, maybe maybe some teenage senior skip day. And maybe this is a good thing depending on everyone else in the school talent show. You're not there. Uh,
Thank you.
so there's
Um,
like a group of kids right now, like, woo! Oh my gosh, she's not there. All right, this is awesome.
well, thank you, first off. Um, it's a really great question. It's something that I do actually struggle with a lot. I mean, one of my best friends since, let's see, I was 8, just got asked to prom and I didn't. And it's funny because I'm like, I want to go dress shopping and like, I want to go do all that stuff. And I can if I want to. But it's not, it's not worth it for me. I've always said, and I know other singer-songwriters relate to this, but we would rather like try on a dress for the CMAs than
Nice.
prom.
That is the
Um,
prom, and let's help you get there.
yeah, but I've always, for some reason, that's always been in my mind. But like, Madeline, you're not gonna go prom dress shopping and homecoming, but let's hope that you're gonna go for the CMAs and for the award shows and that kind of thing. So it's like a give and take. Um, yes, I'm missing out on everyday school and all those friends and people, but I would never give this up in any way for just a school life. Um, so it all pretty much had to do with COVID. And, after COVID ended, it was kind of like, okay, like, are we going back? And because I did get into music right then and there, and it wasn't professional yet, it was just like, okay, like I'm producing, I'm mixing, but I was kind of like, no. And I knew from right then that I wasn't going to be going back. I wasn't going to be the new kid or any of that kind of stuff. Um, so I just had a feeling that I should keep doing this.
Well, I do have to say this, Madeline. If you ever feel the need to just check off a box, totally crash a student talent show. Just do it. You just show up. That is an original song. Deal with it, and then you just do your thing. And don't even take the prize. Just walk away. Just like, okay, all right, that's all I wanted. All right, thank you. I just had to scratch this itch.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
but one of the things, does it your 3 singles in now, is it
Mhm.
still surreal experience, or are we moving more towards normal life? Is this just have you come to that grips like, oh my God, my life is just this now? Or is it still kind of surreal?
I would say it's both. Um, I still feel like I've never felt like, okay, here we go. But unless I'm in Nashville, kind of, on TV or something. But when I'm at home and I'm doing my everyday thing, it's a part of life. And I think that it always has been until I will really graduate, start doing consistent meetings every day, start going to the award shows, that kind of thing. Um, and probably because I am in a small town and it's like, you know, you think you're famous or whatever, but um, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you say that when you say like small town, because you yourself have gotten your bones a little bit by the biggest small town ever, social media. Like there's is there a strong social media influence, or is it just kind of like, hey, I'm putting this out, tell me what you think? Or is this kind of like do you do the thing we're not supposed to do and actually read the comments?
I do read the comments. Um,
I'm guilty of that too. Please go ahead.
I I actually read one yesterday
Hmm.
and someone said, "Okay, this is totally pop, not country." And I was like, could be worse. Could be a lot worse. And that's probably the worst comment that I've got. But I know so many people, Kelsey Ballerini, Taylor Swift. Kelsey, in my opinion, the most has gone with that mix of going pop and country, um, bringing more pop into country, and I'm here for it. I like a lot of kinds of music, but country is so broad these days. I mean, I'm the a couple singles ahead. I'm thinking about putting out more of a rock song. Still fits into the country category, more like Bradley Gilbert or oh my gosh, I can't remember his name, but more of those rock tones, a little bit Morgan Wallen kind of vibe. So that was probably like the I guess roughest comment that I've gotten, but um, most of my support has been like very positive. So
Okay. And I'm glad we are talking about the singles that's already out right now because I always love asking singer songwriters, what is it about the songs that you put out? What is it that one thing where you'd be like, this is it, this needs to go out, this is the one. I mean, obviously we saw it with
mm.
Till Lights Fade, Won't Be Me, and the new one, Heart Space. So what was it about those three for right now that says like, you know what, world needs to hear this? What was it?
For me, it's always imagery. Um, I look at, I've always tried to say, okay, if I wasn't me, would I want to be listening to this? If I was some random girl that lives in, I don't know, Florida, no idea who I am, would I want to listen to this? Teenage girl just went through a heartbreak, maybe met a new guy, any of that kind of stuff. If I wasn't me, would I want to listen to this? And I look at Taylor Swift, and to me, she's this plain, clean slate, pretty blonde hair, blue eyes, that like innocent vibe. And then you look at her songs, and they're like, every time you listen to one, it's all this imagery, and you can see the movie in your mind. And I think she does that really well with like all country, all of her pop songs, all that kind of stuff. And so for me, I always try to start with that, like, okay, is it the sweatshirt? Is it slow dancing on the dock in the rain? Because that's what started Won't Be Me for me. Um, and then taillights, it was literally taillights. So that would be what started each of them. And if I can really like see the story in my mind, then I know that there's something there that I should keep going with and stick with. Especially Won't Be Me. It's my favorite song. The producing was great. The song itself I love. Um, and it was one of my favorites before it actually did get produced and all jacked up and pretty.
Mhm.
um, but when I came up with that idea, I just like saw this image on my mind of like a couple slow dancing on the dock in the rain. And it was like dark out, like maybe 8:30 or something. And I was like, like that sounds like a teenage dream kind of thing. And again, Taylor Swift, Katy Perry, all those
Mhm.
names. And so then I knew I was like, okay, like this is a great imagery thing that I need to stick with. So
Okay. Speaking of that, one thing I have read, and correct me if I'm wrong, is on the internet, so we'll know how true this is. In the past, I read that you used to be incredibly shy. Because of that, you had kind of like a fear of performing in front of people. You wanted to keep your music to yourself. What is it that break you of that, or is this kind of like is it still there? Is it still like elements there where you're just kind of like, do you hide behind? Okay, I got the safety net of a guitar, and once I put this down, I'm shy again. What is it? Is it still there?
you know, I would love to know the answer of that myself. But I would say it wasn't an easy thing to get rid of. Yes, that was a true piece of information.
Okay, okay.
um, but I look at I guess I started actually like playing live for people when I was 14. Okay, like I wrote the song and my dad would try to sneak a mic up next to me. And I would get so mad. Like, oh my God, get that thing out of my face. Are you kidding me right now? um, but I remember like having our neighbors over, and of course, like they never heard me or sing or play anything. Um, and the actual singing and playing was fine. But I would say it's like after that I would get shy. Like you said, like hiding behind the guitar.
Hmm.
I remember I had a piano lesson when I was like from 4 to 11 every year. And every single year, I think I did it like once or twice where I actually did talk, but my piano teacher would say, "Okay, this is her name, this is how old she is, and this is what she's playing." I would not do it. I'm like, "Okay, either you're saying it for me or I'm not performing. And I know you want me to perform, so you're saying it for me." But
Okay.
that was a very realistic uh thing that I always did. Now I actually love talking live. Like I have jokes with the crowd. Um I seem like I can come up with things a lot easier, which took a lot of practice. But even interviews like this, I used to get like super nervous for. And
Well,
now
you're
it's
doing
like, okay, like
fine.
it's
I don't know
fun.
if you need to know that, but you're doing fine.
Thank you. Yeah, but I would say now it's just so much fun, having a conversation with a crowd and it's like I'm not a comedy where I'm like doing it for 2 hours straight. It's between songs or whatever. Um, but yeah. Yeah, I said at my last gig, I was like, okay, this one just came out and it's about the best feeling ever, getting replaced. And everyone's like, ah.
Nice,
So,
nice. Now, you have done this. You're 3 years in. I don't want to say 3 years. You're three singles into this. A
uh-huh.
few years into this. What is something you wish someone told you when you first started? That
Oh
you
my
like, yeah, I
God,
wish y'all would have let me in on this.
that's a hard question. I don't know if I've ever answered that.
Okay.
Um,
You,
I would say, oh man, you really got me stumped here.
I didn't mean to. Yeah.
I would say make it fun. You know, I still continue to do that, but at the end of the day, if you don't want to do it, if you don't want to do it, then don't. And sometimes you get to a point where like, you think of other career paths when it gets really hard or that kind of stuff. That's what happens every day in a career. I mean, my grandma was just telling me when she was going through medical school to be a nurse, if you don't have one time that you're like, okay, I hate this, I'm gonna be done, then it's like not what you're supposed to be doing. Like everyone's gonna have those issues. If it's not a good relationship, then you're not gonna fight or that kind of thing. Um, where you've got to have something going on where it's not always gonna be so perfect, but at the same time, like you don't have to do it. You can go do your own thing and no one's forcing you. So, at least in my case.
Makes sense. And let's flip it because I stumped you. I didn't mean to do that. What is a tip you would give someone who's watching this interview trying to aspire to do what you're currently doing right now? Let's flip it. So you're giving the advice. What would you tell someone?
I would say research your butt off. I spent so many hours every day researching. When I first got started, when I was 14 and we were in quarantine, I was learning how to, first off, the first thing that I researched was how to get on Spotify. Is that something I can upload? Is that, I had absolutely no clue, and no one does unless, you're a musician or you're in the business. Um, but it was started with like DistroKid, a small distribution company. You pay them $20 a year, which is crazy cheap, and they do everything. But you're not going to get a playlist. You're not going to get the streams, all that kind of stuff. And so it's like all these drawbacks. And then, okay, well, then how am I going to distribute my music without them? Okay, well, that's where Veer comes in. And so it's all this research, which is so overwhelming. But you get to a point where, I'm even going to have to start doing research again on how to play my guitar better. Why not? I'm slowly playing just my guitar for gigs, so it's less equipment to bring in. And I would say there's always someone that knows more about something than you. Guitar playing, piano, songwriting. There's so many things out there. I watched Masterclass from Christina Aguilera. I love her. I've watched the same masterclass 3 times, 3 years in a row. Um, she's just, so amazing, and you learn everything again. And so I would say all that different research, and it's easier, I think, when you're younger, um, to absorb all that. I wouldn't want to do it all again, I'll tell you that. But, yeah.
So with that said, I didn't want to eat up your whole day. This has been fun. One thing I would like to do for the audio portion of this podcast is cool if we play a couple of cuts from you. We will wait the time for Heart Space to show up before this is out for everyone. Is that cool?
Yeah.
We put you on our playlist where
Yeah.
hopefully people will love you and rock with you. But from here on out, the hard push, this camera, that camera. I hope I'm saying this right. You're at Madelyn Rose Music on TikTok and IG.
Yep.
Madelyn Rose Music. Hold on, am I reading this right? Music on Twitter and Madelyn
Should be
Rose.
Madelyn Rose music on everything.
Yeah, okay. There's a typo on our part. You know what? I'm doing your job. Go ahead. You tell them what it is.
YouTube is my biggest platform, so I would recommend YouTube. You get bigger covers on that, and of course, a short every day. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Madelyn Rose Music.
All right. And I will make sure I put all of that up once we do the social media stuff. And I will make sure links to the music, and in the audio version of this podcast, we'll play a few cuts. We got the okay. And I want people to be just as excited to hear you, watch your videos, just as I am talking to you right now. So this has been fun. We've been talking for over a half an hour and it just flew past. I'm not going to eat up your whole day. Selfishly, I kind of want to. You're that interesting, so easy to talk
Thank
to.
you.
But one more time, you're welcome back to the podcast whenever you want. Thank you,
so much.
Madelyn, so much. This has been fun.
Thank you. I appreciate having you on.
All right. And God bless and just much success. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.